Okay, guys, you should have had a clean piece of notebook paper. Go ahead and get it titled and dated with today's date. And we are going to be ordering rational numbers. Whenever we are asked to order any type of number, they always tell us to order the numbers from least to greatest. Now, you always have to make sure you are reading the directions very, very carefully, because sometimes they tell us to order them from least to greatest, and sometimes they tell us to order them from greatest to least. So that is the main thing that you need to pay attention to, is what are they asking you to do. All right, so write down this set of numbers. Okay, so the first thing that you always want to do is the same thing that you want to do whenever you are comparing numbers, and you need to get those numbers in the same format. So we need to simplify anything that can be simplified. So if it's a fraction, we need to divide it to get the decimal. If it's a square root, we need to evaluate it. We have to get it so that they all are in the same format. So on this problem, we need to square root the value of 4. And we find that the square root of 4 is actually 2. 1.8 is already a decimal, so we're going to leave that. And then we have negative, and then we need to take 5 divided by 6. We get 0.83 repeating. Negative 3.1 is already a decimal, and 5 is already a whole number. Okay, so we just had to simplify two things. Now, remember, we are ordering these from least to greatest this time. So that means that all of our numbers, or all of our negative numbers, should go first, because negative numbers are always smaller than positive numbers. So we have two negative numbers. We have negative 5/6 and we have negative 3.1. Okay, so we need to determine which one of those is smaller. Okay? Remember, it's the opposite of positive numbers. So if these were positive, 3.1 would be the bigger number. So that means when they're negative, it's going to be the smaller number. So 3.1, negative 3.1 is going to be our first number. I always like to kind of cross them out when I'm done with them so I don't reuse them. So that means negative 0.83 repeating. Now guys, when you write these, you have to use the original numbers. So I have to write negative 5/6 when I write my final answer. That is probably one of the biggest mistakes that people make. Okay, you have to use the original numbers. So now we have positive numbers. We have 1.8, we have 2, and we have 5. Hopefully you know that 1.8 would come next. And then 2 would come after that, but 2 is really the square root of 4. And then 5 would be last. So that this is our final answer. Those are those numbers ordered from least to greatest. All right, let's do another one. Hopefully this is all kind of a review for you. All right. So in this problem, we only have one value that has to be evaluated. So we have to evaluate the square root of 3. Or sorry, the square root of 9. And the square root of 9 is 3. So those are the numbers that we are going to order from least to greatest. All right, so looking at this set of numbers, hopefully you know that 0 is the smallest number there. These are all positive, so this makes our job really, really easy, okay? We have 1.23 and we have 1.5. So, of course, 1.23 is going to be smaller. Then 1.5. Then 2.58. And then last, the square root of 9, which is actually 3. Okay, remember, you have to write down the original value. All right, now remember, at this time would be a good time to pause the video when I give you your next one. And see if you can get it right. Now, I just switched up the directions here, so now we're going to order the numbers from greatest to least, okay? From greatest to least. Alright, so first we have to evaluate them, so we need to take 5 divided by 4, so it's a negative 1.25. Then we need to take 4 divided by 5, we get 0.8. Negative 4.4 is already a decimal. And then 2 squared, so 2 raised to the power of 2. Hopefully you know how to punch this in. But if not, you're going to type in 2, and then you're going to hit the x squared button, and it should pop up in your calculator just like that, and hit enter, and we get 4. Alright, so now we're going from greatest to least, so that means all of our positive numbers should be first, because those are always bigger than negative numbers. So we have 2 positive numbers. We have 0.8 and we have 4. Hopefully you know that 4 is bigger, so we're going to put 2 squared. And then 4/5. Now we have our negatives. Now we want the bigger negative number. So remember that's opposite of positive. So normally 4.4 would be bigger than 1.25, but since it's negative, it's going to be the other way around. So negative 1.25, or negative 5 over 4, is going to come next. And then negative 4.4 would be last. Again, paying attention to the directions will help us here. Alright, I have one more, and then a couple examples for you to do and come and show me for your notes. So on this one, we have a couple to evaluate. So 4 and 4/5. Guys, hopefully you know that 4 is our whole number. So what I always tell my students to do is just type in the fraction. So if I take 4 divided by 5, I get 0.8. Okay? But notice that 0 is in the ones place. That's where our whole pizzas go. So instead of writing 0.8, we have to plug that 4 back in the front. So we have 4.8 instead next is 0.8. 2.75. Have to evaluate negative square root of 16. I get negative 4. 15 divided by 4, I get 3.75. And then negative 11.6. Now we're going greatest to least here, so we need the biggest positive number. Hopefully you can see that 4.8 would be the greatest number there. So 4 and 4/5 would come first. And then 3.75 would come next. And then 2.75 would be after that. And then we need the greatest negative number, so of course that's opposite of positive. So negative 4 would be next, which is negative square root of 16. And then negative 11.6. All right, I'm going to give you 2 examples to do and then come get checked by me. Order that from greatest to least, and then this one you're going to order the numbers from least to greatest. All right, come and show me those when you're done.